Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today, and I'd just like to thank everybody for all their support over the last little while. Well, folks, she's been threatening to die for the last 20 years, and here we are. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge three important people who can't be here today. Aunt Margaret in Toronto, Aunt Mary in Toledo, my best friend Betty Dixon in Font Hill. Catherine lived a long and full life. She was born into a large Irish family and enjoyed the love and support that a close-knit family provides. Saturday nights were basically kitchen parties in the Mahoney household. Her flair for entertaining others started at an early age. Catherine, along with Charlie McCullough and Claude Penza, were three members of a weekly radio program. You have to remember that Catherine grew up in a time when there was no TV and all entertainment was through the radio, so this was a pretty big deal. The Monsignor Flannery radio program, School of Christ, began airing in 1939 and featured a group of kids from the choir. Catherine, Charlie, and Claude were specifically asked to rest their voices and to just answer the questions. Nanny attended St. Angela's Academy after grade school. At the age of 16, she decided she had enough schooling and would enter the working world. She was a self-sufficient and excellent money manager. More than once growing up, she would say to Patty and I, "Make sure you always have your own money and you can look after yourself." She didn't have to be married to be taken care of. Of course, she could take care of herself just fine. She could wait for the right one to come along. Catherine had many suitors, but it was finally Jerry who she chose. They met by chance. Jerry happened to be in town on a work trip, and Catherine happened to be behind the desk at the company's London office when he stopped in to collect a wire from Toronto. Straight away, he told his work buddies he was going to marry that gal. She had beautiful long hair back in those days, and Poppy remembers how it sparkled in the sun. He also remembers being pretty mad when she chopped it all off. To Poppy, she was always the most beautiful girl in the world, his best buddy, his pal. Catherine didn't have to wait for the 1970s women movement. She quietly lived it every day. She ensured that Patty and I were raised as strong women. I remember being about 15 years old and very annoyed one weekend when it seemed that Nanny spent the entire weekend doing Poppy's laundry. He was working out of town and came home on Friday nights and back out the door Monday morning. Nanny explained to me then that a marriage is a partnership and everyone has to contribute where they can. Her contribution was helping Poppy get ready every weekend for the week ahead. She explained that the way we contribute cannot always be measured by dollars and cents. At an early age, we were taught the importance of service to others. Nanny spent much of her life taking care of others. Her brother Bud was a handful. He too was a comedian, and he only got better with age and alcohol. She was the only one he could listen to, and she made sure he was comfortable in his final days. Nanny volunteered at CPRI, working with developmentally and physically delayed kids who couldn't attend mainstream schools in those days. I'll never forget the name of her favorite student, Hubertus Haling von Hossenloffer. Nanny would often say, "There's no way I can teach this kid to write his name. Who would give him that name? He doesn't stand a chance." Nanny, being a homemaker, was always more than happy to volunteer for school trips. She would drive other kids or ride along on the bus. She drove us to swim meets, symphony practices, any and all sporting events. She would take us along to Marion Villa to help the seniors in the craft room and visit with the residents. She worked endless bingos for Participation House. Once Poppy retired, they volunteered together at the Boys and Girls Club, always putting others' needs ahead of their own. If the club was short winter coats, they came out of their closet. Disadvantaged kids and new Canadians were helped without judgment. If we complained about someone at school, she'd say, "Does it really matter? Friendships are not worth losing over the silly stuff." She said, "Never force someone to choose between you and someone else, because you might be surprised who they pick." She always gave freely of herself, never keeping score. She belonged to many bridge clubs, but as kids, our favorite group of ladies were the ones we affectionately called the Beechwood Bums. They were the 7 gals that lived around the corner on Beechwood Ave. Up until COVID hit, Nanny was still playing cards weekly with Connie and Coral, the last 3 remaining from the group after 50 years. Poppy and Nanny took up bowling at one point and enjoyed that activity with Herman and Irmgard Bell, who are the only surviving members of the original neighborhood we grew up in. Mrs. Bell has remained a good friend to Mom until the end. Her social circle was huge. About 20 years ago, she started walking at Westmount Mall, where she created a new circle of friends. Her mall boyfriend, Dave, called her regularly to check in on her and faithfully swapped his delicious beets for Nanny's tarts. Nanny was the original dinner and a show, the dining room as her stage. Always the comedian entertaining at our Sunday roast dinners, which could have any cast of characters. Neighbors, relatives, clergy, you name it. As kids, the most frightening, though, were Nanny's 2 Kinsella cousins from the convent, Sister Mary Helen and Sister Noreen. Just to give you a visual, they wore the old school floor-length penguin outfits with men's army boots. Nanny, sensing our nervousness, always liked to lighten the mood. She loved mimicking the sisters by putting a napkin on her head when they weren't looking and whispering to Mark and I, "I'm Sister Mary Catherine." Dessert time was when she really shined. She loved to take the chocolate cake and stick it to her front teeth quietly to see which grandchild would notice first. One by one, as they noticed, they would all copy her. Nanny belonged to what we called the Golden Girls. When Nanny was 5 years old, 3 little girls moved in down the street from her. She watched out the window as a little girl about her age struggled to make the skipping rope work. Nanny went across the road, welcomed her to the neighborhood, and helped her master the skipping rope. Little did she know that was the start of an 87-year friendship. Betty Dixon and Mom were best friends. Betty's 2 other sisters made up the balance of the Golden Girls. Once everyone's kids were growing, these 4 ladies used to go away annually on girls' trips. Dollywood, Shipshewana, anywhere in Tennessee. There's way too many to mention. They all insisted on staying in the same room to ensure no one missed out on any of the laughs. On one of their travels, they got pulled over at the border. Vehicle chock full of shopping, Nanny quickly told the gals not to worry, she's got this. Stepping out of the car, she dramatically tripped on the curb and went down. The border guards came running, dusted her off and put her back in the car. They just wanted the liability out of there. Of course, they forgot about checking the trunk. I wish I could say border stories were rare. With Aunt Minnie living in Toledo, trips across the border were frequent. Nanny always liked telling the story of when she loaded the trunk to the brim and didn't tell Dad. He was driving back by himself while she and Aunt Ann waved from Aunt Mary's driveway, snickering to each other for stuffing the trunk and hoping he doesn't get pulled over. Of course he gets pulled over, and the trunk gets open, which he has assured the border agent is empty. He got the 3rd-degree lecture on knowing what you're traveling with. Nanny thought this was hilarious, but I'm not sure even today Poppy can laugh about this. Nanny was an incredible money manager and record keeper. She kept meticulous records of appliances, dates, warranties, and on any given occasion she could correct Poppy on what the purchase price of an item in the house was. She knew every single niece and nephew's birthday on both sides of the family. We never went without, but she taught us that we had to wait until Dad's payday. She always said, if you can't pay for it, don't buy it. Before being married, Nanny and Poppy bought a house. Nanny was not going to waste money paying for someone else's mortgage, and this sentiment has certainly been passed down to her grandchildren today. Family and friends were the most important thing to her. Growing up, I remember coming home and asking Nanny what a divorce was. Someone at school said my parents must be divorced because how can I have so many grandmas? What these kids didn't realize was that I had many aunts, uncles, and cousins, like the Pettits, Dixons, and Brattons. Once you were Kathleen and Jerry's friends, you were our family. Family reunions at Uncle Bill and Aunt Jean's every year in Grand Bend, and Christmas in the basement at Southcrest Drive created the tight-knit family that we are today.
Nanny taught her grandchildren many things. On one occasion, we caught her showing Mike and Katie how to smile broadly, push their bottom lip, and lick their upper lip at the same time, teaching them a trick to make it look like they had no teeth. She was a master coupon clipper and later a Shoppers Optimum's points queen. She could teach a master class on points and pass the skill on to Charlotte, who accompanied Nanny on her trips. Shopping for free, as she called it. Her favorite part was going on Senior's Day and waiting to be asked for her ID. When I was 8 or 9, we had a homework assignment where we had to interview our grandparents. I asked many questions of Nanny, but there's one that sticks with me. Nanny, what does it mean when people say the luck of the Irish? And she said to me, well, Sarah, the secret is it isn't really luck at all. If you have a good attitude, you'll find that good things will happen, and a lot of people mistake that for luck. Nanny had a very special quality about her. You could put her in any situation, good or bad, and she would make that situation better. There's not many people that you could say that about. She truly enjoyed life and found humor and fun and kindness in just about everything. She never sweated the small stuff. She built up those around her and rejoiced in the success and happiness of others. It's impossible to describe how much she will be missed, but she will never truly be gone. For years to come, Katie and Mike are still going to be cracking jokes around the dining room table. Charlotte and I will continue storytelling. Alex will bring his meticulous nature to all things detail-oriented, and Wes will continue to help anyone with anything, no questions asked. Nanny, we are so incredibly proud of the life you have lived. It is an honor and a privilege to have known you, to have been your grandchildren and your friends. The world is a better place for having had you in it.
Last year, Nanny was heartbroken when Mark passed. A lot of people said she never really grieved this loss. What they don't know is that she did have her meltdowns with me. A mother should never outlive her child, she said more than once. She said she needed to be strong for Dad. She was so proud of Mike during Mark's final years, as he did such a great job helping Joanne care for him. In the past year, she let Dad take over the household. She figured after 90 years she would take a break. He cared for her daily, grocery shopping, meal prep, pharmacy trips, pill dispensing, laundry, cleaning, and his least favorite, household finances. He never complained, did everything he could, and considered it an honor to do so. Poppy vividly recalls promising Nanny's father on their wedding day that he would take care of Nanny and keep her safe until the end, until the day she died. Poppy, please know that we have watched you keep your promise every day. With respect, the most important part of today is not this service that's going to follow. It would be the time after we leave the cemetery, when stories would be told, fellowship shared, and a nice lunch enjoyed. Due to the times we are in, lunch is postponed until a time when the borders are open and things are safe to gather again and celebrate Nanny, and we celebrate we will. Throughout the years, I would always ask Nanny what she wanted for her birthday, Mother's Day, or Christmas. She always said she didn't want anything. She wanted us to do something nice for someone else. So to honor our Nanny, I ask you all to do one thing when you leave here today for someone else, an errand of mercy, big or small, in Nanny's memory. After she turned 80, she would go to the DMV around her birthday each year and write the requisite geriatric test to keep her license. 4 years ago, she went in, wrote the test, passed with flying colors, and then got right back in line and surrendered the driver's license. Everything she did on her own accord. Joining the party in the sky last week was no different. We all know she's up there with Mark and Ella, drinking coffee and playing cards. Rest peacefully, Mom. We love you.